A very good evening to all of you who are connecting with us with Tax Talk. So, as usual, today also we connect with Ranaweera Associates and Mr. Athula Ranaweera, the managing partner and one of the senior people in Sri Lanka who are the best, I would say, when it comes to taxation. Is the main resource person who talks on the Tax Talk channel. So, if you haven't followed Ranaweera Associates on Facebook, I strongly advise you to go to Facebook, search Ranaweera Associates and connect with us on that, or on YouTube, you can see our tax talks. So without any further ado, let me introduce or rather invite Mr. Ranaweera, Athula Ranaweera to today's session. Good evening, Mr. Ranaweera. Good evening, Mr. Ranaweera. Can you hear me? Hello. There seems to be some technical difficulty. So let me just see whether I could talk about today's topic till we get Mr. Ranaweera connected on our stream. So today, the whole purpose of this tax talk is to talk about business and tax planning, especially for the small and medium enterprises and sole proprietorships. So this is what we are going to talk about, and I think we have Mr. Ranaweera. Let me connect him again. Good evening, Mr. Ranaweera.
Good evening.
Yeah. So, Mr. Ranaweera,
Good evening,
I
everybody.
just introduced the topic and I told them that you're going to I told them that you're going to talk about this. Let's jump into the topic straight away. Can you explain to everyone why you thought about discussing this topic?
Yeah. Now today's topic SME, SME and sole proprietorship, mainly the SME sector, business and tax planning. Now, in this case, now investment. Suppose somebody is having some resources to be invested. He can either go and invest into a bank or fixed deposit or whatever it is with a easy, low risk, but you are getting low return. But if you think that you need more, nowadays the bank interest rate may be about 5%, then the majority of the people, they feel it is better for them to invest in some other business. Then it may be a little difficult, but high risk, but along with the high risk, you are getting high return. Right? That is a business. Right. Now, when we are investing investment, that means now we take some action seeking for profit. An action seeking for profit. Then we have the resources. Now, before deciding the business, we have to think about the resources available. Mainly the knowledge, experience, connections, capabilities, funds, and time factor and all. Now, there were a lot of inquiries to cover this initial entrepreneurs thinking or planning part. That is why we have selected today's topic. Then you should be in a position to willing to make use of resources and take some risk for rewards. That is the important part of this step. Now, in order to save little time, I'll move forward first two slides, second and third slides. What's a business is? Now there you have to take a decision.
Sure.
Whether to invest in any other investment or in a business. Now today we are discussing this part. What type and what size of business. Now when we take the size, the type, we can take three types like sole proprietorship, partnerships and companies. Three types we can consider. And if we take the size of the business, we can take it as SME or large. SME or large sector. Now I'll move to next slide also in order to save little time. Now I have gathered this information from the government statistics and analyze the composition of these things. Now blue color sole entrepreneurs, the sole proprietorship, sole entrepreneurs, there's almost about 30%. Then self-employed or self-employed professionals comprise 25%. But to see, all 45% is covered with limited liability companies and partnerships. More strong setups are there. Almost 45% is with the entity setup. Yeah, I'll move forward because we have limited time period.
Sure.
I'll move to the next couple of slides also. Now, I'll just explain
Okay.
what's the sole proprietorship. I'll explain the sole proprietorships, partnerships, and limited liability companies. Sole proprietorship,
Yes, I
partnerships,
think
and
Mr.
limited liability
Ranaweera,
companies.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's very important for any entrepreneur to know what sort of business entity they should register their company under. So I think this is an important part. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, as I mentioned, yeah, you can either register a sole proprietorship or partnership or company. Now, when we take these things, sole proprietorship, it is governed under the Registration of Business Names Act number 7 of 1987. And if you need to register it, you can go to the divisional secretary office of your area, and there's a separate office, a provincial business name registration office. You can get done this registration on your own. It's a simple thing. What you have to do is to collect an application from the divisional secretary office, business name registration office, fill it, get it signed by the Grama Niladhari, then hand over to the office along with the relevant fee. Now, the fees are, if your capital investment is less than 300,000, you have to pay 500 rupees. 300,000, 500,000, 1,000 rupees. Above 500,000, you have to pay 2,500 rupees. Now, then normally roughly it takes about 7 working days. Actually, you can get done this work on your own. But my advice, when you are handing over your application after filling and getting the Grama Niladhari certification, you better keep a photocopy of that document. Once you start the business, only you can register. Not before starting. After starting, immediately you have to go and get the registration. Now, is this registration is a must? No, registration is not a must. If you are doing a sole proprietorship or a partnership, the registration is not mandatory. But as a professional, I would like to advise you better to get your registration. You need not to go to a professional. You can get it done on your own. I'll move to partnership. Partnerships also same, like they are the important thing is that is governed under the partnership ordinance 1890 and the business name registration office, both. Then that is also the same place, divisional secretary office, provincial business name registration office. Same procedure, Grama Niladhari certification is required. Even in the case of partnership, the registration is not mandatory. Within about 7 working days, you can get done the job. Right. Now we'll move forward to complicated situation, more strong structure, that is companies. If you wish to have a more strong structure, suppose you are planning to have develop this business and hand over this business to your next generation, to your children and all, then better to go for a company. But if you wish to, you can start as a sole proprietor or a partnership, then convert to a limited liability company. That is also an option, right? The companies governed under the Companies Act number 7 of 2007. It is governed by the Registrar General of Companies. Now we can take, there are 5 types of companies: unlimited companies, then limited companies. That is one differentiation. Unlimited companies and limited companies. Under limited companies, you can have public companies, private companies, public companies. Under public companies, you can have listed public companies, unlisted public companies. Right? That is limited company. Then, if you are to do some social services, non-profit making entities, you better register a guarantee company. A guarantee company. That is not for profit making, it is for services. Then, overseas company. Actually, under Sri Lankan law, only 4 categories are there: unlimited companies and limited companies. That is one category. Then, under limited liability companies, private, public, or even offshore company. This last one is an offshore company. There, once you register an offshore company, you can't do businesses in Sri Lanka. You have to do the business outside Sri Lanka. That's a specialty in that. Then what is this overseas company? Actually, overseas company is not a company incorporated in Sri Lanka, but a company incorporated in abroad. If they need to register a branch office in Sri Lanka, they can register that branch office in Sri Lanka. That is not a new incorporation, but it's only a registration. Now, most of these Chinese companies and all, when they come to Sri Lanka for construction industry and all, they come and do a branch office registration in Sri Lanka. The technical term is overseas company registration in Sri Lanka. But the only problem, in this case, there's a minimum investment of 200,000 US dollar requirement. You have to invest minimum of 200,000 US dollars to register an overseas company. Therefore, a lot of overseas companies, instead of selecting this, they go for a private company registration in Sri Lanka. Now, then, under the companies, I would like to explain a little more the methodology of registration. Here, the registration is mandatory. You have to register with Registrar Generals, Registrar General of Companies. Then, now, you can do this registration online. Online registration is open. Then, what are the steps of doing this online registration? First, name reservation or name approval. You have to first get the name reservation. Then next step, you have to collect the relevant application, fill up those things, sign, scan it, and upload into the system. You have to upload the scanned, perfected documents into the system. Then, after a couple of days, you will be getting the incorporation certificate. You have to go and collect the incorporation certificate. Normally for this process, if there aren't any other barriers, any other limitations, then within about 7 working days, you'll be able to get it done. But in the case of foreigners, if foreigners are becoming shareholders of this company, it might take more time period, because then it governs under the Foreign Exchange Act. There's a Gazette notification under Foreign Exchange Act published in 2017. You have to follow the requirements under that, because there are certain businesses which are prohibited for foreigners, like pawn-in business. Foreigners are not permitted. Therefore, there are some limitations. Then, now this looks like very simple. Then the question might be whether you yourself can get done this. Definitely, yes, you can do that. But the problem, it is a complicated process. It's really a complicated process. Therefore, it is always advisable, if you are affordable, always advisable to go to a professional in that field to get it done. Then what is the cost difference? Now, when we take the cost consideration, if you are getting done your job on your own, you may have to spend about 30,000 rupees. But if you go to a professional will charge something around 60,000 to 100,000 rupees, maybe about 75,000 or 65,000, 75,000. You may have to spend. Then that means you have to pay professional fee. That is what's happening. but you can get it done without any errors, because rectification of errors take lot of time. As a result, my advice, of course, if you are affordable, better to go to a professional. Otherwise, you yourself can try that. Roughly, as I mentioned, 7 working days. Now, the qualified secretaries. Now, suppose you want to start a company, you should know whether you need a qualified secretary or not. Suppose your investment is above 500,000 rupees, or that is share capital above 500,000 rupees, or your annual turnover is above 1 million rupees. Both are very small amounts. Then you have to have a qualified secretary. Now, yeah. If you are having a qualified secretary, what will be the cost? What will be the market cost? Roughly, it may be about varying from 30,000 rupees per month to maybe even 100,000 rupees, not month, per annum. The the professional fee may vary from about 30,000 to 100,000 rupees. Then if you are affordable, anyway, whether you are affordable or not, if you are going for a limited liability company, then you have to have and above that limits, then you have to have a qualified secretary. I think I have explained that part well.
Yes, Mr. Ranaweera. So basically, these are the type of business entities or business registration types we can focus on. Is there anything you can talk about? What sort of support services out there for businesses who want to, establish themselves, and what support services do you have really? Business support services.
Yeah. Now, when we discuss the entities where we can get done the registration, we mention about the business name registration at office attached to the divisional secretary office, or registrar of companies office. But in addition to these two registrations, when you are doing a business, there are so many support services in Sri Lanka. I would like to highlight a couple of support services which are important to you. Board of Investment of Sri Lanka. That is to promote the investment promotional arm. It is the investment promotional arm of Sri Lanka. Their job is investment promotion. Then this BOI is open for locals as well as residents as well as non-residents, because a lot of people feel that it is only for non-resident. No, it is residents as well as non-residents can get their services. There are two main types of registration. One is the basic approval under Section 16 of the BOI Act. The other one is comprehensive approval under Section 17 of the BOI Act. This basic approval, once you get this, you are governed under the general laws of the country, not under BOI law. Then why people are going to get this? Actually, this Section 16 approval is not required for, not important at all for residents. It may be important for non-resident. Now, the non-resident who are investing small money and not complicated activities, then they can go to Section 7 and get the approval under Section 16. That's a low cost thing. The initial cost may be about 100,000 rupees. Then annually you have to pay very small annual fee, about $200 a year. But you won't get any benefits out of this the BOI. No benefit other than the investment recognition. But if you go under Section 17, then you will be able to get various concessions and support services from BOI. Like if you want a place in a zone, BOI zone, they might accommodate that. Then if you are in the business of import, manufacturing and exporting, then you will be able to get clear these goods and export and import activities under the BOI custom department, not the normal custom department. That is easy, simple. Then sometimes you might be able to get certain tax concessions. They will link you to get the tax concessions under the Inland Revenue Act, or maybe under the any other Strategic Development Project Act. Only under those two now these are activated. Strategic Development Project Act is reactivated. It was sleeping for last 6 years. Now it is reactivated. Then BOI will link you to Strategic Development Act. Then you might be able to get some concessions. Those are the main benefit. Now I'll move then under the section 17. Depending on the nature of the business, you may have to spend money to get the approval and to renew pay the annual fee. Now, for you to get the approval, it will cost you about $3,000. Then annually, you may have to pay approximately about $3,000, but I can't tell you the exact figures because it is depending on the nature of the project. As an example, if it is apartment project, the annual renewal fee is very high. Right. Then, if you are hiring a professional to get done these things, generally, to get done the Section 16 approval, you may have to pay about 100,000 to 175,000 rupees as a professional fee to a professional. Under Section 17, it may be about 150,000 to 200,000 rupees as professional fee. In addition to that, you have to pay the BOI charges. I'll move to EDP. Under EDP, their job is to development and promotion of export. Development and promotion of export. If you are in the export business, please get registered with EDB and get various support services. Some subsidies even are there. Right. I'll move forward. The Customs Department, as we know, Customs Department is for import and export management. Then importers and exporters need to get registered with Customs Department. Then in addition to that, the Customs Department is the entity managing TIPS scheme, temporary import for export purpose. Temporary import for export purpose. That scheme, under this scheme, if you are importing raw material, manufacture something and export it like garment industry, then at the time of import, you need not to pay tax, VAT, you need not to pay import duty. You can get it deferred under TIP scheme. There are two things, TIP 1 and TIP 4, one for capital goods, one for revenue, the one for raw materials. You have to get this registration with the Customs Department. You have to come through Export Development Board. Then other entities, the Inland Revenue Department, that is mainly to charge tax. Then business chambers and associations. We have various business chambers and associations to get various supports to represent their interest. Then government departments and boards. Now, if you take tourism, tourist development, tourist board and all, they are giving you various support services and various other services. Then various research institutions and standard institutions are there. You can get these things from those institutions also. Therefore, when we are planning for a business like that, you have to plan to get these support services also along with that. I think I have explained that part well.
Yes, Mr. Ranaweera. So let me just ask you another question which I have in mind. Can you kind of explain a bit about the different types of taxes involved in carrying out a small and medium enterprise or a proprietorship? Because I think that's also important to know how to kind of what to look at and how to work towards it.
Okay. Now today we selected the SME sector because there were a lot of requests for that. And now when we take this, the government recently, the government repeatedly mentioned that they are promoting the SME sector. Now, when we take the tax angle which relate to the business, first of all, we should learn What is a business? As per the tax law, there's a definition in section 195 of the Inland Revenue Act. As per this definition, it says business includes trade, profession, vocation. Ultimately, business is, earlier we had trade, business, profession, or vocation. Now it is termed as business, but it includes these three also. Or isolated arrangement. It may be isolated arrangement with a business character. The business character mean ultimately profit aim. The aiming for a profit. That is the business character. Then the time period may be very short. Even time period short or long, immaterial. Then it may be a past, present, or prospective business. Then it says you have to eliminate the employment income from business. Business income is business income, not employment income. Therefore, you have to eliminate employment. This is how they have defined in the Inland Revenue Act. Now, with this, now I would like to talk a little bit about, because when we say tax, all of us are afraid about tax. Therefore, what tax is applicable when we are starting a business? Before starting a business, we should know what type of taxes are in Sri Lanka, activate in Sri Lanka. Import related, import duty, excise duty. Some excise duties are for manufacturing of goods, some are for import. Then various levies are there. Then stamp duties. There are two types of stamp duty. The provincial council is charging stamp duty on immovable property, whereas the central government is charging on all other transactions. Right. Then VAT, value added tax is there. Then the income tax is there. The income tax is there. Though mainly those are the taxes applicable, operates in Sri Lanka. Those are the taxes operates in Sri Lanka. Now we'll talk little bit on these things. Import duty, excise duty, various levies and stamp duty. I'm not going to discuss that in length, but the different cases, different rates are applicable. Then in the case of VAT, I would like to talk little bit. The VAT is charging on imports, or on taxable supply of goods and services. Taxable supply of goods and services, only on two items. At the time of import, if that import is not a personal baggage, if it is not a personal baggage, other than normal personal baggage, personal usage, all the other things are without any threshold, you have to pay VAT. No threshold, you have to pay VAT. But in the second case, taxable supply of goods and services, threshold on supply of goods and services, 75 million per quarter. Actually, this is not month. Very sorry, this is not month. It is 75 million per quarter or 300 million per annum. 75 million per quarter or 300 million per annum. Then rates. What are the rates? On exports, it is 0 rate. Then on financial services, 15%. Then on other things, other supplies, 8%. That means we have three rates, 0%. There are the 0% advantages. Rather than enjoying the exemption, you better be in 0 rate category. Then you can claim the input credit. You can ask for a refund of input credit. Then financial services at 15% and other items or goods and services at 8%. At the time of import or subsequently. Then I would like to cover the income tax also a little bit on taxable profit on taxpayers. Now we have to pay income tax on taxable profit. By whom should pay? By the taxpayers. Any person. Persons are liable. Right. Then we'll take these persons. As per the Inland Revenue Act, there are 4 types of persons. Individuals, partnerships, companies, and the last one is trusts. But I have not included the word trust here because we are talking about this SME business sector. That is nothing to do with the business sector. Therefore, I have not included that. Individuals, that is the income tax. What we'll see what are the rates: 6%, 12%, 18%. Those are the normal rates. On slab basis, we are paying 6%, 12%, 18%. And On liquor and tobacco, we have to pay 40%. On liquor and tobacco, 40%. Then on capital gains, we have to pay 10%. Then partnerships, the income tax, there's a rate of 6% with tax credit to the partners. The partnership should pay 6%. Then there's a credit to the partners. They can claim that credit when they are paying, the individuals are paying their own taxes. Then companies, income tax rate is 14%. The lower rate, concessionary rate is 14%. Then in the case of manufacturing sector, 18%. Other companies should pay 24%. That means there are three rates mainly. 14% concession rate, on manufacturing 18%, on other businesses 24%. Then when we take liquor and tobacco, they have to pay 40%. That's a special higher rate of 40%. Whether it is individual or company should pay 40%. But in the case of partnership, that is not considered there. That partnership should pay only the 6%. That's all. Then on capital gains, even a company should pay 10% capital gain tax. Even a company should pay 10% capital gain tax. Now, I would like to explain what are these technical terms. I said on taxable income, we have to pay. Taxable income means there's a word called assessable, technical word, assessable income. From assessable income, you can deduct the qualifying payments and relief. There are things called qualifying payments and relief. Now, then once you deduct those things, we take the taxable income. Then Sri Lanka citizen individuals, in the case of Sri Lanka citizen individuals, they get 3 million personal allowance, tax-free personal allowance. If you are an employee, you need any individual, first 3 million is exempted from tax. It is a personal allowance. We call it as relief. In addition to that, you can claim qualifying payment, things called qualifying payment. There's a thing newly introduced qualifying payment, that is 1.2 million expenditure qualifying payment. Then partnership. Partnership gets 1 million tax-free allowance. Suppose the profit is 3 million, out of that 3 million, only on 2 million they have to pay 6% tax. Then companies, no such relief. For companies, no relief, but they can claim qualifying payments. Then now we talk about the assessable income. Now we will see the composition of assessable income. Assessable income from employment, from investment, from business and others. There are 4 assessable incomes: employment, investment, business or others. Once you total up all these things, it is the assessable income. That's the assessable income. Totally the assessable income. Then once you know the total assessable income, from that you are deducting qualifying payments and relief, then you are getting the taxable income. Once you arrive the taxable income, how to calculate the income tax? What you have to do, on the taxable income, you have to apply relevant tax rate or rates. Once you arrive the tax amount, from that you can deduct the tax credits. You have to deduct the tax credit. Then that is the balance tax amount. Then, as I mentioned, assessable income from business or assessable income from investment. How to calculate this? How to calculate this profit? Assessable income means ultimately it's a profit on business or profit on investment. This is the calculation method: gross income minus allowable expenses. Gross income minus allowable expenses. Now, when we are preparing the profit and loss account, for accounting purposes, we are preparing it. In addition to that, for tax purposes, we have to adjust it and take. Now, then that's why I use the word allowable expenses. Then, allowable expenses is equivalent to the revenue expenditure. That means income generating type of expenditure or overheads. Then the other category is specially allowed capital nature expenditure. Certain capital nature expenditure are specially allowed, like agricultural startup expenses. Now we clear the jungles and start agriculture. We have to spend huge money on that, but we get the benefit spread for more than 1 year period. Then that is also there. Capital nature and enhanced expenses. Certain enhanced expenses are there, like research and development expenses and all. Now basically this allowable expenditure is the expenditure incurred for production of income. Expenditure incurred for production of income governed under Section 11. Any expenditure incurred for production of income is allowable. That is the very reason why donations are not allowed. Gifts are not allowed. Gifts and donations are not expenditure incurred in production of income. Okay, I think I have explained that part sufficiently.
Yes, Mr. Ranaweera. So, as you said, like the government had been like promoting the SME sector very often, especially recently during the COVID time. Is there anything that supports the SME in particular that would benefit them from taxation or anything in related?
Yeah, as you correctly mentioned, now recent past we heard that regularly government was talking about SME sector to promote SME sector and to agriculture. Now, then to do this, government has done various things and it's happening now. But most of these things are not yet legalized, but we will go through these things. SME sector, non-companies are not subject to interest expense claiming limit. Now, in the case of companies, there's an upper limit of claiming interest. It says you can't claim more than any loan obtained more than 3 times of the equity. On that interest you can't claim. In the case of manufacturing, non-manufacturing sector, any loan go beyond 4 times of your equity, you can't claim the interest. That is there for companies, but non-companies that limitation is not there. Non-companies limitation is not. Then abolition of payee tax is also a relief. Now, because earlier, now to do all these things, you need more and more staff. Now the payee tax, that is the withholding tax, most of the local withholding taxes are avoided, removed. But if you wish to, advance personal income tax could be paid. Then abolition of most of the withholding taxes, as I explained you, that's a relief. Then possibility of setting off business losses against investment. Now, once you do a business, we'll say ended up with a loss, you can set off this loss again the investment profit, interest income, we'll say. Then you can set off against interest income. Ultimately, you need not to pay tax then. If there are sufficient losses, you need not to pay tax. This is a relief for SME, for anybody, but SME, we have to highlight it. Then possibility of claiming qualifying payments against total assessable income. There's a thing called qualifying payment. With that, you are reducing the taxable income. Therefore, that is also a benefit. Then taxing of SME's taxable income. SME should pay that concessionary tax rate of 14%. That's a relief. Then any paid self-assessed IT payments, any taxes what we have already paid by way of ESC, withholding tax, or any other income tax, you can claim, you can set off that as a credit against your tax liability. Any advance taxes what you have paid, you can set off against your tax liability. Then if I'll continue it, now abolition of withholding tax I have already mentioned. Then business losses I have already mentioned. Then for individuals, as I mentioned, each individual is getting 3 million personal allowance, tax-free personal allowance. That's a big relief for individuals. Then, as I mentioned, individuals are getting 1.2 million qualifying payment expenditure relief. This covers 5 sectors: housing loan interest, then investment in equity, then health or medical insurance, things like that. Then educational expenses. All these are covered under this. If you have spent more than 1.2 million, you can claim 1.2 million. If you spend only 1 million, you can claim only 1 million. Then qualifying payment, other qualifying payments and reliefs are there. Then widening of tax slabs. Earlier we had 600,000 tax slabs for individuals. Now we have 3 million slabs. Earlier, 600,000, 4%, 8%, 12% like. Now, 3 million, 6%, 12%, and 18%. That's a big relief. Then any deducted tax can be claimed as tax credit. If you have paid any taxes, you can set off those taxes against your tax liability. In order to save my time, I would like to touch little bit the next one, that is the SME. When we are using the SME, whether there are any difficulties of paying these taxes, any taxpayer, including sole proprietors. Now, how to pay tax? What are the dates of payment? Actually, you have to pay on quarterly basis. The dates are given here. Dates are given here. In 4 quarters, you have to pay. Then the balance amount 30th September. Then you have to file the tax return by 30th November. You have to file the tax return by 30th November. Then either you can handle your income tax on your own, or you can go to a professional. Only thing, if you go to a professional, there's a professional fee, maybe varying from in the range of 30,000 to 50,000, we'll say, in the case of individuals. Yeah, I think I have covered that item 7 also. Well,
Great, Mr. Ranaweera. I think today we have a lot of content and the time is sticking. So I'm just thinking, maybe shall we take one more question, or do you want to end the session? We'll just take one more question.
Yeah, one more.
Yeah, I think we'll probably jump into the last question we were planning. That is like the difficulties that SME sector faces. If you can kind of explain a bit of difficulties they go through when it comes to taxation.
Yeah. Now normally now most of us are having fear with taxation. Therefore, now when there are some taxes, always we are fear. Now, SME sector, especially as they are not equipped with all staff facilities and all, they may be in a difficulty on these things. Generally, businesses need now the interest sector. I have already covered. Therefore, I'm not going to cover the interest sector. But nowadays, with this COVID situation, there are some import limitation. Now, a lot of SME sector is facing these import limitations, and now they have to get arranged. Instead of Sri Lanka government obtaining overseas loans, now these individual importers have to get overseas loans for 180 days credit period or something like that. Then for small sector people, SME sector, it is very difficult for them to find suppliers, that small suppliers like that, who are giving that credit period. It's a big barrier for SME sector. Then now at the same time, as the SME sector has badly affected, sometimes this delay of payments and all these penalties are there. Penalty is another headache, and legal action and also another headache for them. Then the other problem, once you overpay tax, it is very difficult for you to get a refund. Some people say it is no chance of getting a refund, but it is not correct. If you'll plan for it, if you'll follow up, definitely you can get refund, but it is very difficult. That's another issue. Then insufficient assistance. Sometimes in certain cases, there are some insufficient assistance services from the Inland Revenue Department. Now, before winding up today's session, I have summarized certain things as a guideline. Now, general advices for us SME entrepreneur. I would like to touch this before finishing. Selecting a business. So now, when you are planning for SME business, you have to select the business suitable for you. Maybe based on knowledge or qualification, experience or resources, volume or resources. You have to select the correct one. Then you have to budget the capital requirement. Suppose you are having only 10 million and you are trying to do something which needs 100 million. ultimately you might lose your entire money. Therefore, you have to budget the capital requirement properly. Then the third thing is, if you are looking for a partner, you have to select the correct partner. Otherwise, it is best thing is to go as a sole proprietorship or sole proprietorship company. Then the next thing is required equity, the entity registration. You have to do the entity registration in a proper way without any loopholes, without any errors. That is very much important. Then required other registration like UDA approval, environmental approval, and various approvals are there. You have to get all these approvals before starting your business. Then you have to recruit quality and knowledgeable staff. That is very much important. Quality and knowledgeable staff. Then at the same time, you may not be having sufficient money to employ professionals as an employee. In that case, you can retain professionals on the assignment basis, professionals who are having knowledge and practical knowledge to help you. Then definitely at a cost. Then last but not least, take all decisions with caution. Don't be hurry up. After planning, please take all these decisions. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ranaweera. We've just like kind of made through the time. So I think it was an interesting topic today, especially for the small and medium enterprises and the large, like the entrepreneurs who want to kind of start a sole proprietorship. So as you can see the details of Mr. Ranaweera and his companies. If you do need any advice, you can contact him or his company directly. Yeah. So thank you very much, Mr. Ranaweera, for taking time and conducting another tax talk. So I think we'll meet again with another interesting episode. And please send in your thoughts as a viewer. If there are any questions you have, any areas you want us to cover, any topics you want Mr. Ranaweera to talk about, please inbox us or send it as a comment. So we will be able to accommodate that. Thank you, Mr. Ranaweera, and thank you everyone for connecting.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody.